Hey, good people. Sammy Ashe here, Executive Director of the Ashe Academy, and your host of our Inspire, Uplift, Engage podcast. Thank you all for joining us once again for another episode. Before we get into the show, just wanted to remind you all that August 15th is the deadline for all those teacher nominations for our Adopt a Classroom initiative. We just need you all to nominate teachers who are making a positive impact in our communities, putting them in the running to receive $300 worth of classroom essentials. Also, if you'd like to contribute to these initiatives, details for our supply drive and Adopt a Classroom fundraisers are in the description box. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Ashe Academy's Inspire, Uplift, Engage podcast. I am Sammy Ashe, the Executive Director and your host of your favorite show. Today, we are joined by friend of the foundation, Alexis Shellow. Thank you for joining us so much. Now, you have approximately 10 years experience in marketing and business development, currently working as an IT contract specialist for federal government. And then your free time, you enjoy doing musicals and staying involved in the arts community. So I want to know, because I feel like you are liking to so many people who are in that gray area of the arts and STEM. What came first for you?
The arts came first for me. I started singing really, really young, and probably around like the second or the third grade. And then I started really getting into like all the different show choirs and like kind of found my love there. So it started in music for sure.
Awesome. I got into music very late. It was actually after film school, like for undergrad, and then eventually I started writing, and then eventually people started singing my songs. So I was like,
Oh,
okay, all right, y'all appreciate
hey.
these
Got a little
words.
niche there. Yeah.
But I always loved music. What's it about music that kind of like drew you in?
It's just, it's so expressive. You can find, you can just, they say music is the universal language, right? You can always connect through music. And I met a lot of great people. I've learned a lot of great things, like just through being around other musicians and just performing, and just something about being like enveloped in all of the, the horns and the drums, piano, just being in that space is so mind freeing. And then you can find anything to play to express how you feel. If you're mad, you play something that gets you a little hype. Or if you if you're feeling happy, something to keep your spirits good. So there's always, like, music is almost the answer for everything, or has an answer for everything.
I love that. Now you do have a background in tech, so like, how did that, or in IT, but like, how did that go? How did you go from a very expressive art to something that people don't identify as an expressive art, although it can very well be that much, because in both arenas you're creating things that people end up using or working on things that impact people. Um,
Mhm.
so how was that transition for you to get into a completely different field?
I'm not gonna lie, like it was difficult because I didn't really make the decision until I was in college, going to undergrad. Originally, I was going to go for music, and I was going to go audition and try to get into a vocal program. And then somewhere along the line, as I was applying, I was like, you're not this risky in real life. So, like, are we gonna make money with this music career, or what? So I got some of that imposter syndrome. I hate to say, but I was like, well, what's a different route I can take? So I went to undergrad for business and tried to figure out how can I make the arts and business, like those two parts of my life, fused together. And I started looking into marketing and then big data, and I fell in love with that. And it was, I got to create things, working in the marketing field, doing business development, different projects, incorporating entertainment, and then figuring out the numbers and all the data to be like, okay, how can we make this better next time, or what attracts people? It kind of flowed together for me in that sense. I just had to figure out how to merge the two worlds.
Beautiful. Everyone knows that I'm the resident marketer at the Ashe Academy.
Mhm.
But the way that I got into business is because I did not get into graduate film school. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to business school. And then I
Mhm.
found the most creative emphasis.
Right.
Because once an artist, always an artist. I was like marketing, and also marketing was the thing that I did not. Um, I guess capture within being an artist, like how do you create a relationship with other people after you've created this piece of art? Like how do you get it to the masses? Had absolutely no clue, and that was going to be the most important
Hmm.
part of the,
Yeah, you got to
that's
get your
how you
stuff
make
out
the
there.
money. Someone
Right.
else has to like it, someone else has to purchase it. So I was like, okay, I need to figure this thing out. And I found out that I love statistics. I was like, all
Mhm.
this time I could have been doing well in these math classes.
Right. Right. Right.
I could have been somebody's engineer, possibly, if I had paid attention and had. It's like context is the greatest lesson I've learned through my educational
Mhm.
career. Like even in learning how to code later in life, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, once we have the website,
Right.
like I
Right.
love this. Like
Wow.
we're impacting a website and people get to see what I'm doing.
Hmm.
But like the foundational classes were not working for me at all.
Listen, you say it's so dry sometimes, and you're like, what is happening in here? Like, statistics was not my jam, not even gonna lie. I was like, I need something else. This is hard. But then it's like once you get it, once you find your passion for it, at least for me, then things started to click, probably because I cared a little more at that point. So I was like, oh, I can pay attention now.
I mean, when we're paying for these credits
Okay.
or owe money on these credits, and we start paying attention more.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I do owe a little bit, but
I tell everybody every time. It's like, ooh, yes, if I can get anybody to owe less than I owe, that's really part of my passion. Like, I don't want people with this extreme debt. Like, that's not the point. I don't want to tell people not to get degrees, but I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, look at that return on investment for yourself. Like,
Exactly, exactly. And there are so many different tracks to go on with degrees. Like, if I thought about it back then, it was go to the 4 year school, get the degree, get the job. But like, you save so much money even if you just start taking your core classes at, a community college or things like that. But nobody ever discusses those avenues, So we don't. At least I didn't even consider to know about it.
there was a stigma. I won't say the
Mhm.
teacher's name, but she was like, "Don't go to the local community college." Back in like junior year of high school, like, "Don't go there. Nobody's going to like follow through once they go there." So then I was like, "Don't go to community college at
Mhm.
all. Don't go."
Mhm.
Meanwhile, I could have saved money. There could have been other avenues explored there,
Mhm.
and then I go on. Now, I love my undergrad experience, so I wouldn't trade it in. But for
Mhm.
people who go to these 4-year schools that are an expansive debt buildup,
Yeah. Yeah.
and for some people who may not even finish because they didn't have the guidance they needed,
Mhm.
that's not the right move. Let's just say
Right.
that. All
Right.
right, let people explore however they need to explore. Now, give them the guidance to like, okay, don't spend 5 years there if you really don't know what you're doing because you
What you
are
want to do.
still
Right.
going to rack up money from it. It's a lot um,
Hmm.
cheaper to go that route, but it's still money that you will have to pay. So,
Right.
but yeah. Anyway, let me step off my soapbox for that. But yeah, please consider community college if that is something that will help you manage the expenses of college.
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
feed into the lies out there, people.
Exactly. The stigmas. Do you, be you, and do what you got to do.
Yes. Now let's talk about teachers. Well, perfect segue. I just was roasting a
Right.
teacher, teacher, teachers and mentors. Did you have any? Because you did make a kind of like a fork in the road with like practicality and like kind of a plan A that gave you something to fall back on because you always have the art. That's something like, okay, I am the artist now. I could
Mhm.
always do more training, but I go in this practical route, then I have something to fall back on.
Mhm.
Did you have a teacher, professor, family that kind of instilled that within you, or was that your own intuition? How did that work out to make a decision like that?
So it was partly my own intuition, but as I started my journey, I did have a professor in undergrad, her name was Dr. Lubin, and she was like my greatest supporter. I mean, and she really pushed me to think outside the box, think creatively. She was my economics professor, but we just happened to get close while I was in undergrad. And so she was like, explore these avenues. And it was kind of under her guidance that I had got an internship with state government at the time. So that was my first government experience doing marketing and business development for a new initiative that they were working on to get at-risk youth back in school and getting them like certificates. And that time it was in manufacturing, so that they could get jobs, be placed in jobs.
Mhm.
So that was my first government experience, and I don't think I would have considered something like that if Dr. Lubin didn't kind of push me and encourage me to try new avenues or try different areas. And so she was definitely a mentor. And then I had another group of mentors from my undergrad. They weren't teachers, they were previous students, and they just were really involved with the college. And so they put me on a panel. I sat on a panel for Moody's financial investors, and I did like an internship under them. And ever since then, they have been there supporting me as well. Like, still do the arts, still do perform, like, don't give up your love, but then here are some other avenues to look at. And so I was lucky in that sense that I had that type of support system.
That's awesome. Was that something that you like a program that you applied for to get the I guess those relationships going, or was it kind of like
Um,
happenstance?
yeah, literally, it kind of just happened. So my undergrad puts on these events called networking days, and all alum come back and kind of give the current students like interview pointers, or they have sessions about what it's like to uproot and leave Pennsylvania and move to a city, and different things like that. So those my mentors, they're Ben and Christy are their names, and they I met them at one of those events, and it was just I then interned for them on the Moody's Financial, and you do have to apply, but it's through the school. But they do it with other colleges as well, and it's such a worthwhile experience. And it's like was really good on my resume at that time, because how much experience do you really get in undergrad, So it was helpful, and it's part of the reason of how I ended up in DC. So.
Mm. Awesome, awesome. I always talk about how I didn't want to talk to or the professors or add them on social media after I graduated, just because I was 20 something who was not interested in nurturing those relationships. But
Mhm.
not that I have regrets, but I wish I had at least tried, because I'm like 10 years later reaching out to some of these
Mhm.
professors, and like they remember me and they're like, hey, how's it going? It's like this could have been 6 months out. This could have been while I was still in there, like keeping those relationships going. um
Mhm.
so yeah, this just I feel like there are some people who are like me out there who are
Yeah.
not taking advantage of these professionals, especially when it was the professors are actually still in their field and
Yeah.
they're teaching.
Yeah.
um I mean, it's a missed opportunity when you don't, I guess, keep
Networking
those.
is like, it's a really it's definitely important. Like, they don't ever stress the importance. At least I don't think so. They tell you to build your network. They don't tell you how, or who you should be interacting with. And those professors that you have in college, or those teachers, those people who make impacts in the community, like those are the people that you want to reach out to, network with, stay in good, boots with, and things like that.
Absolutely,
So.
absolutely. Now, I would love to know, as you have moved through your career in IT, what is something you wish you had known when you started compared to now? That was a deep breath.
Yeah, I'm like, let me think about that. Something that I wish I had known. I guess really something I wish I had known was that, don't shy away from it because you think it would be hard. I shied away from a lot of things IT related because I was like, well, I don't think I'm smart enough to be able to grasp those concepts, or I don't think these type of opportunities come to people who look like me. So there's always, unfortunately, different stigmas and stereotypes about who goes into what field. And like, if I could tell myself anything, I would say go for it and learn the code sooner rather than later. One, it'll probably been a lot easier had I learned it when I was a little younger. Um, but it's the way. Like coding, getting into coding, getting into data studies, data analytics, things like that. I would have pushed myself to explore those options a lot sooner.
Absolutely. Something you said about too hard. That is, I stress this with everyone. Like, you don't know how hard it is until you start doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It could be in your head that, okay, med school, I'm talking to a specific cousin out there, but med school is going to be too hard. And like, you don't know what the program is until you are in it. So
Mm-hmm.
don't build up this idea and fantasy. Now, will it be easy? No. I want that program to be hard because you're impacting lives, you're saving lives.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be like, okay, I could just get this
This
done in
was a
6 months.
breeze.
And it's
Right.
like I'm a doctor now.
Right.
No, I want you to have those years, but I also don't want you to think and build up this idea that it's going to be too hard for me to do, when you very well could start that program and excel. Like, I was not
Mm-hmm.
the best high school student grades wise, straight A's or mostly A's in
Mm-hmm.
undergrad. Like, the completely different students if you kind of like compare grades.
Right.
And I'm like, well, this could be you, and you could be doing well in undergrad and then go to med school and do exceptionally well. So like,
Mhm.
don't count yourself out, everyone. I'm talking to y'all, not Alexis. That's like,
Be your biggest advocate.
yes,
You've got to push yourself. You can't wait on somebody else to do it. And I think we have this innate sense that we need permission to do certain things or to try things that are outside of the norm, for us. And so you have to advocate for yourself and say, yeah, I can do this. I'm just as capable of learning, whatever field you want to be in. And for me, it was STEM. I had to learn it because I spent so much time, in the arts, which I love. And but I was going into a different realm here. So
it's
yeah.
definitely a different muscle because I spent nearly 3 years in tech, and I don't really say that I'm not in it anymore. I still have my hands in some other buckets. We got
Mhm.
multiple streams that we have to
Okay, yes.
attain. There we go. Um, but like spending time in it, I'm like, this is not too hard. This is not what I thought
Mhm.
it would be. I actually didn't know I was getting into tech when I got into it. I was like, oh, after I left the company, I was like, oh, I was in fintech this whole time. I
Right.
I didn't realize I was. So it was like when everybody was
Mhm.
saying oh yeah, I spent time in fintech. I was like, I did too.
Right,
So
right. That was me too, yeah.
so it's super weird, especially learning how to code later in life. I feel like all of the advocacy like measures have been a journey for me. Like, hey, like I am a lifelong learner. So
Mhm.
I'm obviously through my 30s are going to feel a little bit more confident, care a little bit less about the minor details of like self-doubt. Like,
Right.
I just recently told everyone, like, hear your doubts out. Here,
Mhm.
listen to them. Okay, like
Right.
let them finish. Like they're raining on your parade. Let them finish that
Mhm.
rain, and then ask them why not. Now, I'd use more colorful language on Facebook when I post this, but no, talk back to them. Like,
Yeah,
okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, why not? Why can't I do that?
exactly.
And if they have nothing else to say, then they were wrong. All
Shut it
right,
down.
there
Yep.
we go. Yeah, that's the end of it. So now, was it a journey to get there? Absolutely. It was
Mhm.
not like okay from day one.
Right.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the career trajectory where I'm switching reels from completely the 100% artist,
Hmm.
um, to a business professional and then working in marketing. So,
Yeah.
I would love to know, what is some terrible advice you have heard along the way? These reactions.
Ooh, some terrible advice that I've heard along the way. Yeah, I would say the worst advice that I probably ever had received was, to get a job that it doesn't necessarily need to make you happy. You just got to pay your bills, buy your house, start your family. Like that was what was taught to me. That was the advice I was given. Go to college, get your degree, get a job, any job, you know. And no, the advice that I should have gotten was follow your dreams, get the degree if you want, be happy. Don't have a family if you don't want to, but it resulted in me trying to follow that advice and then biting off way more than I could chew, because now I'm got this like overachiever complex that I have to, yes, work hard, but work super hard, have 3 jobs, do everything, excel at everything. And it's like slow down and live your life. And I didn't get that concept for a very long time, just because it was that you need to go to college, you need to get a job, and then you get a house and you live this boring, boring life.
Oh my gosh. This boring life. I mean, this is exactly why we look back and reflect, and why I love these one-on-one interviews, because people get an opportunity to like just, laugh at the things that were told to us and how we had to pivot around all that
Hmm.
stuff. Like, if only y'all knew that I was trying to have kids by 25 and set up this whole like, yeah, that's the year.
Yeah.
No, it is not the year.
It is not the time, okay? Like, at least they wasn't for me. I'm like, I can barely afford myself.
Thank you. There we go. I'm the child. That's it. That's
Right.
so on the flip side, what would you say is some of the best advice you have received that has, I don't want to put that much weight on it, but like changed your life?
So Elaine, what is her last name? Walter? I forget her last name, but she's an author and she's on the top. Um, but she had said something along the lines of bite off as much as you can chew and then chew slowly
Mm.
and laugh in between bites. And I was like, sis, you are so right. Like, slow down and enjoy what you're doing. Like, yeah, you can grind hard all day, every day, but what does it matter if you are running yourself ragged and burning yourself out and not enjoying anything or living life? So hearing that kind of really helped me to shift gears, because I'll say it was probably within this last year and a half, that I was decided that I'm not about to just be a slave to the system anymore. Like, I'm going to take time for me. I'm going to work on my mental health. I'm going to be the healthiest version of me that I can be, while accomplishing the goals that I want to accomplish in the tech world or in the IT arena. Um, so yeah, that was probably a really like perspective shifting statement for me.
Awesome. I mean, what coping mechanisms do you use for burnout? Because my goodness, I feel like a lot of people have, made it through. COVID's not over, by the way. No matter when
Mhm.
this releases, COVID is not over, y'all.
Right.
But
Right.
no, throughout the pandemic, People have been working harder.
Mm-hmm.
They've been picking up skills. They've been doing all this stuff, but like at a certain point, you're going to burn out. Like you can be very productive during this time, but like take a breather.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the people that are working from home, home starts getting disoriented and it's like it's
Yep.
business and it's home and like everything happens in one space. So what do you do to kind of get you on that right track to self-care and uh, protecting your peace?
Yes. One thing that I've recently started doing is because I'm one of those people who works from home 24/7, who has been since the pandemic started. Um, and I was starting to work 12-hour days because my computer's right here, right in my house. And so I schedule off on my calendar. They're called joy blocks. And
Ooh,
so it's a period of time where I step away from my computer. It's a half an hour at least, and I try to do it once a week at least. And I just go and do whatever I feel like would make me happy in that moment. If it's taking a walk, if it's making a smoothie, if it's just laying on my floor and listening to music, whatever it is for me to disconnect and just find some zen and some peace and check in with myself, check in, how am I doing? What do I need to do? Anything that'll bring you joy in that moment. So for me, it's usually trying to go out, might go outside or I'll go make a smoothie, sneak some ice cream. But yeah.
that sounds like if it's sneaking, it's not non-dairy. So I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. But now, during this Joy Block, what is on the Joy Block playlist? I really want to know what kind of music you're playing.
Oh, mostly, Lizzo for sure.
Okay.
You
All
know,
right.
you got some Lizzo, some upbeat, some like woman empowerment, like you got this type music. I mean, unless I'm just having a different type of day, but I always try to make it, some upbeat, something to make me feel happy, to dance. I love to just walk around my apartment randomly dancing. So, and my windows are usually always open. So people probably look at me like this crazy woman. but,
You
but
looking out the
yeah.
window like it's my Joy
Right.
Block.
And it's my joy block, right?
I love that. Between do nothing days and Joy Blocks, I will be taking that on
hmm
to my life. Now the do nothing day has not happened yet, but I love the concept. Um, I usually find something during the do nothing day. So
Things start crossing your mind
yeah,
like,
I
well,
was
I
like, stop
could.
it.
hmm Yeah, I'm telling you, you gotta check out. I did like a staycation, but I just went to a little resort, like a cheap little resort that was over near me, and just it was just me by myself. I went on a hike one day. I had room service delivered, got a massage. I was like, you got to take care of yourself and love yourself. And so that's, if you got to do that for a couple of days, even if it's local, because work is home now.
Yeah,
So you can't really, it's hard to check. It was hard for me to check out to check out in my own apartment with my computer dinging in the background.
absolutely. Now, I would say this is the perfect time to segue into our special questions. Not the Q&A section, but it's the special
Oh,
questions beforehand.
okay.
So what would you say, aside from like your job and the arts, like what really brings you joy?
Cooking.
Ooh,
I
what is Alexis cooking? Come on.
I love to cook, and I cook a range of everything. I used to cook a lot of soul food, but we've been trying to take care of our physical health, so we've been having some alternatives. um,
Okay.
but I like to try a bunch of different recipes. And I eat a lot of like chicken, fish. So I made tuna steaks for the first time a couple weeks ago. Usually I do like salmon, and those turned out really good. I did cauliflower, roasted turmeric cauliflower with honey and a little pepper, and that was fun. But it was good. So just trying a bunch of different things. And I find that it's calming. There's something about like chopping up everything from scratch and like hearing it sizzle in the pan and just having that me time, playing some music, and making healthier food options too, because I used to, it was bad. I was frying chicken all the time and making like ribs and all types of stuff. And I'm like, girl, you got have a salad.
So a little background for me, I went plant-based during the pandemic in it was I was around July 4th is when like the like cold turkey, like I'm gonna go on a fruit and juice cleanse to start it out so that
Oh,
everything's taken away, and then
mhm,
slowly add in like regular foods that are still vegan or plant-based.
mhm.
It's been a very interesting year, but it was to combat the fact that I was like, I am not blowing up like a grit during this
Okay.
pandemic.
Okay.
Because like I love the gym. I just got back in the gym, so shout out
Hey.
to the me being back at the gym. The Instagram feed will be more gym selfies, and y'all are just
Okay.
gonna have to eat your heart out because that's how it started. Go to the front of the feed, and that's exactly what I did. Um, but like I'm not a virtual workout person. Like
Right.
I'll do yoga virtually, but
Mhm.
I don't want to do any of those classes on my TV. That's not me.
Right.
So I was like, I'll wait it out, but I need to change my diet in the interim. Like
Mhm.
something
Mhm.
has to give because mm-mm.
Look, I agree with you. I was like, all right, we got to change this up because things clothes ain't fitting the same, and I was like, we about to buy a new
Pe-
wardrobe.
yeah, people think that I'm a lot more frumpy than I actually. I was like, those clothes are not fittable right now. But as soon as they are, I will stunt on y'all again.
Okay, okay, because they're not ready.
Not ready, but I will be fall ready.
Yes, fall
And
fashion is the best
there
fashion.
we go. Autumn announcement. I have
Mhm.
some recipes for you if you want to get back into the soul food that's still kind of health conscious. So
Yes,
some plant based and some not high salt by any means stuff. So
yes,
I
that
will
is
help
exactly
you
what I
out.
need.
Some collard greens. I've been making vegan collard greens for years, actually.
Ooh,
So I got you.
if you got a
Uh,
good mac and cheese recipe, I really would.
Well, that has been the most difficult thing for me to make. I do have a couple places that make a good one, so
Mhm.
I can let you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's I feel like the ancestors are like enough.
We have had
Some things need to have the real stuff in it. I'm like, okay,
it.
all right.
Right, right.
My
Like,
goodness.
okay.
All right, so what does success mean to you?
That's a
Heavy question, deep.
heavy question.
We keep it light and then we take you back into the
Right,
depths.
right, right. I would say success for me is just feeling like I'm making good social impact and I'm happy. I can't put say like, oh, if I make this salary, I consider that successful because I'm just at a point now where yes, salary is important, don't get me wrong. But I need to
I
feel
want
like
all
I'm
my coins. I
yes,
want
all my
all
coins.
my coins.
Don't get it twisted. I am here for the bag. But but I want to be happy. I want to know that I'm making an impact and helping the community. And to me, that's what success looks like. And I have freedom over my time and my energy and my space to just hopefully be a light for somebody and make a difference somewhere. So that would be hopefully that was a good answer, but
Absolutely. I am sure you're being a light for someone. Someone needs the things that you're sharing and your story. So absolutely. This is the perfect time to segue into our final line of questioning, our Q&A. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Who is your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration. That's a hard one. Again, I would say, and I'm going to butcher her last name. I feel so bad, but Elaine from the top, like she wrote a book called More Than Enough, and I bought the book a few years ago, and she kind of talked about, what it was like growing up being biracial, what it was like being the youngest person in her industry. And they were just so many things that I could resonate with, and that she about trying to feel like you have to work twice as hard to get half as far, and what she would put herself through. And I'm like, I can really relate to this. And then for now, she turned her life into about loving her. And she's an activist for social rights and social justice, and she is not afraid to make her voice heard, and like to have that type of courage to just come up, step out, be in the public, stand up for what you believe in. Like I aspire to have that type of courage, and just so much just comfort in myself that like this is who I am. I'm here to stay. This is what I'm working on, and like come and take this journey with me. And she is not shy about sharing her struggles, and I really appreciate that. So she was probably one of my biggest inspirations.
Awesome, awesome. Is it Elaine Welteroth?
Yes, Walter Rock.
Okay. Okay, perfect. You know what, and this is exactly why something you said about like sharing your struggles and your failures, like that is the most key thing, because I know we have these elevator pitches, like we want to present
Mm-hmm.
ourselves in the best way, and I don't want anyone coming on the show like all my life I had to fight. Like I don't,
Right,
this like
right,
we don't want like the like
right.
terrible stories for the time. But I do think it's valuable for people to understand, especially as they're getting into college and they're getting out of college, that a lot of us had whatever respective struggles we had, and
Mm-hmm.
there were some dark times
Mm-hmm.
throughout. It was
Mm-hmm.
not all peaches. I referenced 2015 as the worst year of my life, but I struggled before then. It was not everything
Right,
was great. Then there was
right,
one bad year. Then everything
right.
started getting better. No, there were years that I could not afford to do little tiny things, and I'd put it on
Okay.
credit cards, it just
Mm-hmm.
to uphold a regular life. Like not the saddest
Right.
part
Not do
is that
anything extra. Right.
I was not putting a whole bunch of money on there for frivolous things. It was like, okay, you're gonna have to put on a credit card to just have lunch.
Mm-hmm. And then
So
worry about how you're gonna pay the credit card off later. Like
there we
you had to do
go.
what you had to do.
So
Yeah.
it's super important that people understand, like, it was not all roses for everyone.
Mm-mm.
And it's never going to be that way where it's just like, I'm set for life.
Right.
Didn't have to pay for this, didn't have to worry about this. Like people need to know about those struggles. Otherwise, you get the 30 years into your career version of someone and you think that you're like, oh, I want that, but you have no idea the scars, you don't have no idea the
Mm-hmm.
sleepless nights, the tears that got
The
them there. So
battles. Mm-hmm.
there we go. So I just want anyone, I'm going to keep on saying this throughout the season, be the next you. Don't try to be the next so and so,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
seek your next chapter, not someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me stop with my I've been on the
No,
soapbox a
no,
whole episode. I'm
I'm
sorry.
here for it. I'm here for it because it's the word and somebody needed to hear it. Like
There we
life
go.
is real, and it happens to everybody.
There we go. That's the
Mhm.
quote of the episode. Life is real and it happens to everybody. Now, who do you hope to uplift with your work?
Really, anybody that I can, anyone who I can be of any service to. Um, I'm looking to help uplift as many people as possible. I do a lot of work now with college students, undergrads. I do some mentoring, and so that would probably be where my outreach is right now, or my outreach is primarily focused. Just again, because just trying to let them know what life is like after college. Sometimes you don't know what that looks like, and or how what you should do to prepare, what you should do, and as far as looking for jobs, knowing how to find things that are available to you. I think that more often than not, we're just not told about certain avenues that are available to
Mhm.
us. And so I kind of want to be that, I guess, liaison, if you will, like, with college students and say, hey, like, you can still have your interests, but explore some of these out of the box career fields. Um, you know, and you can implement your passion there. If so, like people had done for me with coming to the government. I'll say that when I was in college, nobody talked about going into the federal government, and I've had a few professors tell me, like, don't even try for it because it's so hard to get into, you'll never make it in, and really try to encourage me to go a different route. Where I went to school, manufacturing was the big thing. General Motors was in Youngstown, so like that was considered where the good jobs were, or working in a bank or something like that. And I didn't know exactly where I wanted to work, but I knew that that was not it. And so, and that's just me, you know, that's
Yeah.
just not what I wanted to do. Had I been like an engineer or something, maybe I would have wanted to go to General Motors. And that could have been a cool avenue. It just wasn't what I saw for myself. And I think there are so many other industries and career fields out there that people just need to be exposed to. Exposure is the biggest part. And so I just want to help people learn to advocate for yourself and try those things that you thought you couldn't.
Beautiful, beautiful. How does it feel being on the mentor side of things since you like had these great mentor relationship or mentee relationships, mentor mentee relationships, but now you are the mentor.
Mhm.
What's it like being on that side?
It's awesome. Like at first, when I first started, I was terrified. I was like, Lord, I really hope that I can be a resource to these kids, or they, you know, and give advice, and that they see value in it. But all I can do is give it my best try.
Mhm.
But when you see them in, I've had a few students graduate and go on to get jobs and things like that. But seeing that type of growth, or seeing their confidence grow, like you can't beat it. Or when they text me or email me in the middle of the night, like, I got this interview, like, I don't know, can you help me prep for it? Or can you look at my resume just to make sure? Like those type of things, one, makes me feel good because it lets me know, like, okay, I must really be making an impact. But it's just awesome to see them blossom and go out and chase different things.
Beautiful, beautiful. Last but not least for the Q&A section, how do you stay engaged with your motivation? In other words, what keeps you going?
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it gets hard. It gets rough. Like I get tired. Like we had just discussed. Life happens to everybody, and sometimes I'm like, what am I doing this for? But when I ask myself that question, I remember, you know, you want to make an impact. You want to help, and so I'm like, all right, let's turn on a little Lizzo and get this thing going and take on the next project, you know, and remember that it's bigger than myself. What the things that I'm doing, it goes outside of myself. And so if I'm going to be that service oriented person, or that service, you know, servant leadership type person, sometimes I have to remind myself, you know, yeah, you're tired right now, but we got it. We can figure it out. Let's keep it going. We're doing good work, making a good impact. So it just push through.
Love that, love that. Push through. That is a daily situation for me. Push
Listen.
through. My goodness. Now, what is next for you? Do you have any speaking engagements? Do you have any events coming up that we can keep up with?
Yes, so actually, at the end of this month, I am speaking on a women in leadership panel, and it's about women in the federal government in the IT industry. So I can share that information with you. and it's going to be a really good panel. But that's what I have coming up next on the list.
Awesome. Now, how can people keep in contact with you? Give us all the handles and the websites.
Oh, yeah. The best way and the easiest way to get in contact with me is through Facebook. So you can reach Alexis Shellow. That's my Facebook. Add me, and feel free to reach out to me on Messenger with any questions or advice. Like, I'm here to help anyone that I can. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, under Alexis Shellow. So whichever way, but Facebook is definitely the easiest. That's probably where I'm the most active.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, friend of the foundation, Alexis Shellow, for joining us. We appreciate you so much. This was a great conversation that I'm sure people will resonate with. I mean, after the quote, what is it? Life happens to everyone. It's real and it happens to everyone. I love that so much. So, everyone, take care. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.